It was late morning on an Ohio hillside when the woods suddenly erupted. Saplings to the right began shaking violently, branches snapping, leaves bursting outward like something heavy was forcing its way through. Moments like this are why stories like the ones shared on Myths, Monsters, and Mullets stick with you. A massive, dark shape stood out against the slope for just a second. Broad shoulders, a strange conical head, then silence, and the realization that whatever was there had been way too close.
Out in the woods, shadows creep slow, footprints deep where no man should go. Cold winds howl through hollers and brooks, whispers of Bigfoot in the way it looks. Myths, monsters, and bullets in the night, under a pale moon, strange glowing light. Truth out there like a blade it cuts. Myths, monsters, and bullets run amok.
Welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets, the show where the strange, the unexplained, and the weird take center stage, and where the people behind the encounters matter just as much as the encounters themselves. We're not just here to talk about what was seen, we're here to understand who saw it, how it changed them, and why it still matters. Before we get started, quick shout out to our supporters over on Patreon. If you'd like to help keep the show independent, ad-free, and unapologetically weird, head on over to our Patreon. You'll find members episodes, early access to all the public episodes, and bonus material you won't see or hear anywhere else. If you've had an encounter or something strange that you've just never been able to explain, I want to hear from you. Email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. That's mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Your experience could be featured on a future episode. It's coming up fast. Mark your calendars. June 6th, 2026. I'll be speaking at the Arkansas Cryptid Fest in North Little Rock, Arkansas. If you're into cryptids, folklore, and listening to great speakers, that's where you need to be. If you haven't yet, make sure you've hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're following me on all your favorite podcast platforms. Give this episode a like, leave a comment, leave us a review. That'll help us with the algorithm, and that's the best way to grow the show. Make sure you check the descriptions on all my episodes. Down below, you're going to find a list of all my favorite podcasts, from Nevermore Hollows, Drunken Cryptids, Chumming with the Spirits, Ghost Gossip, and so much more. And while you're over there listening to their shows, leave them a comment and tell them John sent you. And with that, let's start the show. Welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets, Take 3 with John Turley. We had a little technical glitch there a few minutes ago, and this is our third attempt at trying this. But John Turley is back on the show. He did a live with me back in, I think it was December. And we met at the Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree. We were already friends on Facebook because I have a lot of people that are just in the Bigfoot community as friends on Facebook. But he come up to the booth and he's like, man, my wife would absolutely love it if I had a mullet. And he bought a mullet. And John, how did that work out for you?
She did not absolutely love it, as it turned out.
Well, John, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners?
All right. Well, my name is John Turley. I am, along with my wife, Beth, we are vendors, and we go by our moniker as Crow Town Squatchers. We have been basically on the Bigfoot circuit now, if that's what you like to call it, for about 8 years. This will be going into our 2026 will be our 9th year. So I'm getting excited about 2027 because it'll be officially be our 10th year of doing business as Crow Town Squatchers. So we sell t-shirts and hoodies and toys and games and puzzles. And basically, what I like to tell people is we sell stuff, and you can see some of the things we have behind me sitting on the walls. Like, I sell stuff that I like, that I think other people that enjoy Bigfoot likes. So it's just, I'm wearing one of our shirts. We wear our t-shirts. We use the things that we sell on the table. We enjoy it. And I think other people do too. And I think that's kind of, we're down to earth, mom and pop store. We like to have people come up to the table and share with us and tell their stories. And, we've had hundreds of people. Some of those stories really stick out to me over the years too. So it's really cool because it goes along with that whole mythos of what we got going on and how many stories you've heard, like either whether it's on Monster Quest or one of those YouTube channels, or one of the old In Search Of, or the Patterson Gimlin film and things like that. And people want to come up and talk to you about what happened to them, or, and you see all the similarities, the patterns that emerge, so many stories that you hear. It's the same story from different people. And that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
did notice
in the water. I always want to get that one out before I forget about it, where somebody's sitting on the riverbank or by a pond, and here comes rocks over their head splashing in the water. Like, I've heard that from 10 different people at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say I did notice that you didn't put Myths, Monsters, and Mullets up there with the Patterson Gimlin film, and I'm offended.
I was getting to that. I was getting to all those great podcasts out there, like Myths, Monsters, and Mullets, with your host John Methenkamp.
Yeah, I get it. Give me another 50 years, and I'll be right up there with Patty.
Right. They'll be talking about Patty and some of these other great names, and you'll be right up there with them.
That's right. It's the mullet.
It is.
So when you came in the live, we did a lot of this, what we're doing right now, the cutting up and having fun, which I enjoy. I'm not saying I don't enjoy this, because this is me. This is who I am. This is who you are, because we've had some conversations, and we have very similar styles when it comes to humor.
That's fair to say.
Yeah. And we had a lot of fun when you came in the live. But one of the things we didn't do in the live is talk about what got you into Bigfootery and the encounters that you've had. So let's go back to little Johnny. And how did you get into the world of Bigfoot?
That reminds me of one of my other favorite YouTubers is Gen X Grown Up. His name's Little Johnny. So, yeah, Little Johnny. I mean, it all starts. I tell people this over and over, and she's no longer with us. But my mother got me. First of all, she was a Trekkie. But she was also what I would call a burgeoning cryptozoologist when she was young. So every Sunday, without fail, I have 3 older siblings, by the way. So when we were growing up, every Sunday, my mom would make fried chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, noodles, gravy, whatever, every Sunday. My mom worked her butt off during the week. And on Sundays, she'd make fried chicken. Well, Sunday night, and I can still tell you what the order that these came on. So at 5:00 on Channel 5 out of Cleveland, In Search Of came on. At 6:00 on Channel 43 out of Cleveland, Star Trek came on. At 7:00, You know what? I can't remember what came on at 7, but I know at 8 Battlestar Galactica would come on. So that was in the, like I said, this is in the mid 70s, 76, 77, 78. So we watched In Search Of every Sunday. So, and of course, the Bigfoot episodes were my favorite. And at the same time, this is when the $6 Million Man is out. Favorite episode, obviously, Andre the Giant Bigfoot episode. That was just, you lived and died to see that in reruns in the summertime. So there was, so In Search Of, and plus we had those late night movie guys on Channel 8, Channel 40, and not Channel 43, Channel 8, Channel 10. We had on Channel 8, we had Big Chuck and Little John out of Cleveland.
Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. How the hell did you have 5 channels when I only had 3?
We didn't have, well, we had actually, we had from 2 to 13. Remember that?
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Did you have cable?
We did.
Oh my God. You were one of them rich kids.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but we had channel 2 to 13. So that was when I was getting older or the older kids were leaving the house. So there was a little more money than there was when I was younger. When we lived in Old Washington, we didn't have cable. So Channel 8 had Big Chuck and Little John. So on Friday nights, they would do goofy skits and play these movies. So you would see, Legend of Boggy Creek, and some of those other really cool 70s biography, those Bigfoot biographies is what I like to call them. The one with Peter Graves, The Mysterious Monsters, I think it was called. There was a couple of them. And Sasquatch, The Legend of Bigfoot, that was the other one. That's the one. I love that one. That's the one it talks about Albert Ostman, Ape Canyon, all that. And they go on that quest for Bigfoot, and it's got like the crazy red-haired chef, and they kill that mountain lion. I'm like, I bet the PETA people just freaked out.
Probably.
But anyways, like I said, those are those movies were on. That was an old thing going on in the 70s. So I would read books, get books out of the school library about Bigfoot. I usually have a couple of those on our table. Selfless plug there. But you can't turn down an opportunity. So
I feel the same way about Patreon.
Just gotta
mention Patreon every once in a while.
If you really want to help one of these awesome podcasts out, like Myths, Monsters, and Mullets, there is a Patreon.
Yeah. But enough about me.
Like I said, and getting the books out of the library, and so all that, it was fascinating and all about monsters. But I never thought Bigfoot was in Ohio. I never heard of any until I believe it was in that Peter Graves movie. They showed like a map of the country, and they showed where there had been sightings in the United States, and Ohio was on there. And I remember it was like 8 or 5 or something like that. That's how many sightings had been in Ohio. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are they here? So one fateful day, me and a friend of mine, he's about 4 years older than me. We would go up here on the east side of town is when the east side and I'm pointing this way because that's where it's literally, my sighting was literally about a half a mile from where I live now.
Oh, wow.
Which I find to be, it's very ironic that we got this house and it's that close. So we would walk up. This was called, all this land up here we call this Old Man McCoy's Hill. Obviously, it's a row of hills. It's not just one hill. It's If you know this eastern part of Ohio, that's all it is, like rolling hills. So it goes over the hill, you go down the hill, you go, and there's another band of hills right over there, and that's the way that goes. It goes 5 miles like that, all the way down to there's a little town out there called West Lafayette. There's a few houses in there. Back then, there was very few houses sprinkled in those areas. There's a lot more of them now, but there wasn't as many as back then. So up on this hill, we would come literally 2 blocks down, would go up the street until it ends. And then we would literally just walk through these people's backyard and get up into the woods, because the wood line is right there. The deer come down off this hill all the time, and they're in my yard. I've got an oak tree in the backyard. It's the neighbors, but it drops acorns all in my yard. Like there's times I'm out there mowing the grass in the fall, and it's like walking on an ice skating rink. You're sliding all over the place. I got deer come down here all the time in my backyard. I'll go out to work in the morning, and you can hear them out there just.
Oh no, that's all the corn you spilled back there.
No, that's the neighbor up the street. He's got a salt block out there.
Oh, okay.
He thinks he's helping him. I'm like, do you want somebody to come by here and just shoot one? Shoot one in the street or what? But anyways, so yeah, they come right off they used to eat my neighbor's flowers all the time. It was hilarious. Like the tulips that come up, they look real pretty. He'd have all different colors, and come out the next morning, there's nothing but stems. They'd eat every one of them. They love the tulips. So, but yeah, they come right off the hill. The wood line's right there. So we'd go up there. There was we'd get up through through those people's yards, and there's an old 2-track. It was basically a 2-track to run up. It's kind of like a cut back, so it would go up this way and then it'd come around. And so we're going up through this, we're walking up the 2-track. And the reason we'd go up there is, well, there was 2 reasons. The one, there's 3 ponds up there, and we'd go up there and go fishing. That's how, we spent the days. And the other thing was, old man McCoy would chase you around in this old beat up pickup truck that he had, and he would shoot rock salt at you. He would load shotgun shells with rock salt and he'd shoot at you to get you off his property. Now, the reason why this is the story that we all heard and we all told. He had 3 sons. Now, 2 of them, one of them drowned in one of the ponds, and the other one was killed. He was under a tree during a storm, and lightning either hit him or it hit the tree, and the tree fell on him. And I can't remember which one it was, but he was killed in a thunderstorm. And that's what I remember. So we always assumed the reason why he would shoot you and get you, he didn't want anybody up there. And the kid, like we were little hoodlums, and it really became a game of cat and mouse. And there was nothing more invigorating than hearing that truck coming down the road, and bouncing off into the woods and jumping into tall grass and hiding, it was, we were doing Rambo stuff before Rambo was Rambo. So that was the 2 reasons we went up there on this hill. So this day we were going fishing. The way I remember is, to the right of me, the woods just seemed to explode. And by that, I mean, I don't mean it was one loud kaboom or anything. The saplings and the trees just started shaking to my right up the hill. How far was it? It's hard to judge because it's hard to remember, honestly. I want to say 20 to 30 feet to my right is where all these saplings. So it's going up the hill. The sun is kind of it's probably 11 in the morning. So the sun's kind of coming over the hill. There's a lot of shadow. If you've been in the woods, you know how there's a lot of shadow there. I don't remember seeing a face. I don't remember seeing, I can't tell you like what color hair was. I just remember a black shape and the trees just shaking. I remember the conical head and the big shoulders, and we were just kind of, frozen for a second. I remember me seeing the shape and looking at my friend, and we kind of stared at each other, and then we just booked it back down the 2-track. Well, we went down, um, I want to say 50, maybe 50 yards or so. We jumped on, and I got to put a little interlude in here at this time. Me and my friend at the time were also part-time vigilante superheroes. If you remember Iron Fist, we actually had those kind of, a bed sheet was sacrificed. We had it with the eye holes and you could tie it back here. We didn't have those with us that day, but we kind of thought we were, vigilantes. So we had this idea. We would each get on the side of the 2-track, pull some fishing line across that, and then if the creature came after us, we were going to trip it with the fishing line and then fall on it with our, I think I had a little buck knife with me, and I think he had something similar, a pocket knife or something. So we were going to, do a little.
You're going to do some mountain monsters type stuff.
Yeah, we were going to
actually take the thing out.
We were going to get a Bigfoot kebab. But then we kind of, after about it seemed to me like 5 seconds, we kind of looked at each other like, what are we doing? And we hightailed it out of there. We didn't have, he didn't come back down the trail after us. And I say he, but I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, but we just ran. After that, we ran down off the hill, and when you're a kid, you can run forever. And I seem to remember running all the way back down to where I lived on Wilson Avenue.
Wow.
I went up and told my buddy what had just happened after I got calmed down a little bit, that lived up the street, and he totally shot me down. Like, you didn't see no Bigfoot. That's stupid. And that was kind of the end of it. Every now and then I would tell that story to somebody once, like I would meet a new friend and I would get to know him, and I would say that, and I got ribbed all through school, all through high school. I remember in high school one time we were out, we were partying our friend had a like a cabin and a lake. You want to talk about having some money. So we're all partying on the beach, and
they had the first 43 channels.
Right. Yes. I remember they had a Betamax.
Holy cow.
They had Betamax. I was like, dang, what is that?
You had to take your shoes off when you came in their house, didn't you?
You know it, brother. But I remember they were teasing me. They're like, Turley saw a Bigfoot, because we were talking about Bigfoot. Turley saw a Bigfoot one time, and I would do that howl from the Sasquatch movie, like, oh, and it would freak everybody out. So anyways, there's more. So actually what's funny is, so after that, and I just talked about that time on the beach, getting ribbed about that. So that was my sophomore year in high school, junior year, maybe. Then in the summer, well, it was actually August or early September of my senior year in high school, we are in what we used to call the Valley of Forever, which is, when I told you about those rolling hills, going out to the east of Coshocton, almost in a straight line. If you go over a couple of range of those hills, we found this valley. Actually, my friend Bill's one that I give credit to finding it. It's basically shaped like a big soup bowl. Okay. So there's a rise you go up. We would pull our cars up over and in, and as you went down in the back, it kept sloping down, and then it leveled out. Well, all around, and it was grass all in there. We built a nice big fire pit in the middle, and then on each side it sloped up, and it went to the tree line, and there was a perfect tree line all the way around. Looked like a bowl cut for our mullets.
A bullet.
Yeah, a bullet. So we would have these massive parties out there. So and it became a meeting place. So the one day it was me and three of my other buddies, and we were in two vehicles. And the one, he's a year older than me. That's how I knew what time it was, because everybody else he was going to OU. Everybody else had already left to go to college, but OU started a week or two after everybody else. So he was still at home, and we were just out there. It was getting close to sundown. We were having a couple of beers, and we're out there, and we hear at the back of the valley, we just hear this god awful roar. Like, I want to say it was like an Ohio howl, kind of, but it wasn't exactly like an Ohio howl. But we were just like, what is that? Like, what is going on? So, like I said, it's not dark yet. The sun's getting close to going down. So we kind of, after we hear this, we're like, oh, okay, whatever that was weird. And it's nothing's coming out of the trees or anything. So we're cool. So we're sitting there talking, listening to music, blah, blah, blah. And then here's this howl again. And if you think about a clock, so this thing, it was right at noon when we heard the first time. Well, now it's moved over here to about 1 o'clock, and we hear the same roar. Blah. And we're just like, okay, that's weird. Like, this, you don't hear this every day. And we're kind of inching closer together.
Big tough guys.
We're tough guys. We're sitting there and we're talking. Now we're talking about it. Now it's got our attention. What is this? Like, this is not normal. This doesn't sound like anything that we've heard. About 15 minutes after that, about 2 o'clock, this thing lets out this holler. And now we are really bunched up together. Like, we're holding our beers. They're all touching each other. It's like we're giving a little toast there. we're all huddled up. Like, if that thing gets any closer, we're getting the heck out of here. Well, 10, 15 minutes later, and it's now the sun is going down. So now we've got long shadows. And this thing is right up the hill from us. And it lets out this scream. And it looked like a cartoon. It looked like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. All you saw was like streaks of light going into the cars, and we booked it. Now, the high school parking lot's about 2 miles from that valley. Right up the road. You go out the road, you hit Morgan Run, and you go up and come down, you're at the high school parking lot. That was our meeting place in the summertime. It's funny because we spend the whole year trying to get out of there, and the first day of summer break, we're in the high school parking lot.
But there's no teachers at that point, so it's
exactly
cool.
So we jump out of the high school parking lot, and we're like, what the was that? And we're freaking out about it. And whatever that was never came down out of that tree line. Whatever it was, it stayed in the tree line the whole time. Now, obviously it's one of those things where I can't say it was Bigfoot, but whatever it was yelling. I mean, it was pretty obvious it did not want us there. Now, here's the other caveat to that. So about 2 weeks before that happened, we had 4 other friends that had a road crossing just up on the road, like a half a mile from there.
Oh, wow.
And this, they described it, they called the They called the cops. It got wrote up in the newspaper. Um, they described it as a juvenile, rolled out in front of them, went across the road. They backed up. They were in a Volkswagen. There was 4 of them in it, and they backed up. And my friend Dave, who I still go out squatching with, he said you could see the hair, and that's what he called it, hair on the back. He said that thing was standing on the side of the road, kind of like, standing still and trying to remain hid. I guess that's, from what I understand, that's primate behavior. Just standing there and trying to be not seen. But he said you could see the hair, and the skin underneath. He's like, it wasn't fur, it was hair. And so this was, like I said, I remember it was because it was college football time too, because we, the next Saturday we went out looking for, this was the first time I actually went squatching. Me and the guy that was driving the car and a couple of our other friends who weren't there, not the ones that were with me when we heard the noise, but we went out to the valley and we went like looking for footprints, let's go see if we can find something. But this is the funny part, is we didn't look on the side where we heard the screams. We went on the other.
Well, I mean, honestly, isn't it still going to be in the same area?
We did not go over there. I mean, we were too serious about like tracking anything down that day, but
before we go any further, back at that first encounter where it was shaking the trees and stuff, how tall do you think it was?
Like I said, it was on the hill. It was enormous to me. Obviously I was small. If I was to gauge it, I would say anywhere, around 7 foot.
Okay.
It's hard, like I said, it's hard to tell. It's on an incline. I was, 4'5" back then. So
everything looks big. I mean,
everything was enormous. I mean, it could have been 6 foot tall, but the way it was on that incline and
right,
everything else.
And then with the second one, with the howling, how long did each howl last?
Oh, it was like a good, I'm going to say like 5 to 10 seconds. So, I mean, it was more than just, it wasn't like a yip or anything, like a, little one note kind of sound. It had some vibrancy to it. There was more, it wasn't just like a, what's a good analogy? Wasn't like a dog barking or something.
Right.
More of a, something was like, okay.
Did it sound at all human?
No.
Okay.
No. And it's funny because I talked to my buddy, that was with me. Let's see, it was about 6 months ago. I asked him because I think I was on a podcast talking to somebody about it. And I said, well, what'd you think that was? He was like, I don't know. You're the Bigfoot guy. You tell me what it was.
So you heard that howl like 4 times?
Yeah.
Wow. And each time it was coming from a different location. Do you feel like it was circling you, or just maybe trying to get a better view?
Well, that's actually a really good question. Which actually takes me back to another good point. I think it was, it seemed to me like it was, it wanted to get closer to us. It was probably curious about what, and this is just me thinking, from what again, that goes back to all those stories you hear, behaviors, patterns. I would think it was curious about what we were doing there. And plus it was kind of like, hey, this is not a good place to be right now.
Now, the other question is, what kind of beer were you drinking? Because if it was PBR, he may have just been coming down wanting one.
Yeah. Now that's the truth, but I can almost guarantee you we were drinking Bush.
Okay.
We weren't big PBR fans back then. I think we were probably drinking some, unless we stole it out of the refrigerator at my house, and then it was Old Milwaukee.
All right. Yeah. Those were the two main questions I had, or three main questions I had about those encounters. So,
and while it's still fresh in my mind, I'll bring back that other point I was going to talk about. I got up and told that story, basically what I just told you, at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot conference in Gatlinburg. They had me and Gwen Purcell and a couple other people during the lunch break. They had four of us come up, and they were like, you got 15 minutes to, tell your story. And so they asked me to come up. I was like, oh, are you right? RPG asked me, and I was like, no, I take that back. It was Jessica Moira. She asked if I would come up and do it. RPG was there, I think, but she asked us all to come up and do it. And I was like, absolutely. I'm all for that. And, she was like, there's a lot of people up there. It's like 2,000 or 3,000 people sitting there. I'm like, I love talking in front of, I'll have to go up and talk in front of a crowd about it, it's just it happened. So, I mean, I can only tell my story the way it happened. So,
right.
But Jessica brought up, and I'd never thought of this before. She said, do you think that one of the reasons why old man McCoy didn't want you up there is because he knew about the Squatches? And I was like, that thought never crossed my mind. And until she brought it up, I never thought about it that way. I was like, it's very possible. Like I said, because the whole thing in that valley was similar. And we had that road crossing, and there was also, that was 1987. So that was the time. And I remember seeing them. Don Keating was putting up flyers. Don Keating is like the guru of Ohio Bigfooting.
Yeah.
He had flyers all over the place, like out in the woods on trees, up on telephone poles, out on these country roads. Like if you've seen something, if you've had a Bigfoot encounter, call this number. So all that was happening all at the same time. And it was kind of like, my 17-year-old brain was overwhelmed with the coincidence going on, but, and I still kick myself in the butt for, not kind of pursuing it at that time.
Right.
But I was pursuing other things.
Yeah. Other more dangerous things.
Other more dangerous things at the time.
I get it. I get it.
I mean, I don't think you have to.
Yeah, we don't need to elaborate. I think
we don't need to elaborate.
Every guy that's listening knows what we're talking about.
If you were 17, you know what I'm talking about.
Right. So after the howling, you start Bigfooting, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, it kind of goes back to that. It was that weekend we went out there, and that was the first. That was our first, attempt at squatching. And there was, I won't say that there wasn't, because we spent a lot of time in the woods. This was, 1987, 1988, and into the early 90s. We spent a majority of our time out in the strip mines, out on these country roads, building bonfires. And, I would, sure, there was times I would go look around, see if I could find any footprints, see if I could, just see anything that, like, oh man, it would have been so awesome so awesome to find a footprint or anything like that out then. I'll tell you what was really ironic, strange, serendipitous was a couple of years ago. We were, my friend Taters asked me, he's like, "Hey, we're going out squatching today with Don Keating and a few other people. Do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding? Like going squatching with Don Keating? That's a bucket list item right there."
Right.
So we go out on County Road 7, and Don's, we park, and they've got the road blocked off. I mean, I've driven this road a million times, and sometimes I was even sober. Um,
Oh yeah. Okay.
so we're out there, and we're walking around like literally all of our old stomping grounds. And Don turned to me and he goes, "You ever been out here before, John?" I was like, I slept over there. I slept over there. I slept over here. And no, not with a tent. So it was literal. I mean, it was right where we used to. I mean, we had 3 years of parties there. It was I was almost nonstop. We'd get off work and go out. We'd go out there. We called it Burger Rock. It's like we'd go out. We loved the name Burger Rock so much. We had two places we called Burger Rock. There's one on one side of the highway, one on the other side of the highway.
It was like a franchise.
It was a franchise. But the main Burger Rock was like, it was almost a nonstop party for 3 years. Get off work, go load up, go out there, get the fire, knock the coals off and gather some wood and get the fire going from last night. And here we go again.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And, I guess going back to what you said, there wasn't, like said, there wasn't a lot of like, organized Bigfoot, investigations going on. In fact, what happened, was, when I got into my early 20s, I started having a lot of paranormal stuff happen at my house and then at my grandmother's house. And so things kind of veered off. And one of the most insane twists ever, I'm talking to my uncle, a couple of years ago. We were talking about Mothman. My uncle was in they're all, my family's all from Mason County, West Virginia, where Mothman's,
Yeah.
Point Pleasant, Mason County. They're actually from little towns called Hartford and New Haven, which is just up the road from Point Pleasant. My uncle was in the Army Reserve when the bridge fell. And so like I said, we used to have all this weird paranormal stuff going on at grandmother's house. Grandmother told us the house was haunted upstairs. The ghosts live upstairs. My mom swore by it. None of my older siblings would ever sleep upstairs. I'd never slept up there until I was married. Because I mean, literally they put the fear of the ghosts in there. And you could tell there was times, like I've told this story before. There was times when I was a kid, I'd go up there and play. Sometimes it was very opening feeling. It was like, yeah, come on up here. And other times, there was one time in particular, I remembered I got about halfway up the stairs and it was almost, I won't say it was audible, but it sounded like it was like audible in my head. Like, don't come up here today. Like, you're not welcome. Turn around, go back downstairs. So
what kind of things did your grandma experience?
Well, grandmother never really talked about any kind of, she just always said the ghosts were up there.
Okay.
Now, when I was up there, two different things happened. So the one night, I'm sleeping in the bed, and I come bolt upright. And I was with my ex-wife and I were up there. We both came up bolt upright in the bed. and at the foot of the bed there is a shadow figure wearing a fedora hat and a suit. And I know it's my grandfather. He never left the house without his fedora on. When he went out in public, he looked ridiculous, but he always had this suit on and his fedora hat. He looked cool for 60s.
But he probably grew up in a time though where, I mean, you look at like back in the 50s and stuff.
Yeah.
That's how people went to work, even in factories and stuff. They would wear a suit to work.
Well, and here's the other part. I mean, he served in the Navy. He was out in the Pacific during World War II. Survived that, comes back. I think he was the chief of police at one time. He was the mayor. There was a picture of him shaking hands with when Jay Rockefeller was the governor of West Virginia. He met him. I mean, he was an important man in our little town. And when he was not out in public, he was always out in the garden, dressed in green pants and a V-necked white T-shirt. The reason I'm being so specific about that is another time we were at grandmother's house and my ex-wife walks in. She said she was white as a ghost, and she was kind of like a medium kind of person. She attracted those things. White as a ghost. I said, "What did you see?" Because I could tell something. Because I mean, she was like freaked out. She said there's a person walking across the backyard, and I'm like, "What was it? Was he drunk? Was it somebody, the neighbor, or what?" She goes, "I don't think he was alive." I was like, "What do you look like?" And she said, he had on green pants, brown shoes, and a V-necked white T-shirt. And my grandmother was sitting there with me, and we were looking at each other, and every hair was sticking straight up on my body. I went and got the photo album. Because there's a perfect picture of me and him standing next to each other, coming out of the garden, and that's what he was wearing. And I showed it to her, and she was like, "That's who I saw."
Wow. Did your grandfather pass away in that house?
He actually he had a heart attack while he was out in the garden. Then they took him to the hospital and he passed away.
Did he build that house?
He didn't, but my other this was my step grandfather. My grandfather, Charlie Brown was his name, built that house.
Okay.
There was a guy that was hit by a car out in the front yard. He died literally out front in the yard, and then another man was murdered out in the front yard. And then the coup de grace, that's where I was going with my uncle. So upstairs in this house, there's 2 bedrooms and 2 eaves. The eaves are the creepiest things on the planet Earth. So you open the eave doors and you turn on the light, and the light is like right here by the door. So when you look down that way, all you see are shadows. And grandmother had like all these old creepy, hutches and trunks from Germany, like literally from the old country. I think it was my great great grandmother's. So there's trunks and these just old furniture and stuff. And it just looks like, a nightmare fuel on each side of it. So that's the eaves, but so you come up the stairs, on the right is my uncle's bedroom, and on the left would have been my mom's. So, my uncle is up here and I'm talking to him. This was 4 or 5 years ago now. We're talking about he was asking me about because he's huge in the UFOs. My uncle was a colonel in the Air Force. And and he goes to like the ancient alien things when they're on tour and stuff. So that was cool. I was kind of asking him about that. Like I said, he's a bird colonel, retired from the Air Force. He still works for the civilian, like air controlled stuff, like helps people like not crash into each other.
Air traffic control.
Kind of an air traffic controller, but I don't know exactly what his exact role is. So probably not allowed to tell me. He'd have to kill me.
Oh,
Something like that. So anyways, like I said, he's when the bridge collapses in Point Pleasant in 1967, my uncle was in the Army Air Reserve. I think that's what it was called then. When they pulled one of the semis out, he took the keys out of the ignition and he had it in that bedroom. He had those keys in that bedroom. And I never knew, if I'd have known this, 20 years ago, I would have snatched those. But I was like, you had that high energy, that high energy item in that room. It's no wonder it was like a, freaking
like a beacon. It's
like a beacon.
Things.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and it was so, when he told me that, I was just like floored. I was like, are you kidding me? That high energy object in that house just had to be, like you said, like a beacon.
Yeah.
Talk about, and it was, the house on the hill, man, just blah, blah, blah.
Wow. So he just like, he took the keys because he knew it would be, an important event.
I think it was, yeah. I didn't really, I need to have another talk with him about it and ask him kind of what was, I'm sure it was, like something I'm going to, hold on to because it's a big part of history.
Right. Holy cow.
And I told that to Steve Ward too. And I guess there was only 3 trucks on that, bridge. So like, they know like they know it down to who was driving each truck. So like, if we had the keys for that truck, we can't now because, after my grandmother passed, this was in the early 2000s, no, late 90s. I'm sorry. My grandmother passed away. Mom held on to the house, for a long time, but it just got to be the point where, we would go down almost every weekend and do repairs, and it just got to be too much. So eventually Mom sold it. Less than a year after she sold it, it burnt to the ground. Supposedly an electrical fire. We never had any problems with that house with electricity, fires, nothing.
Sometimes insurance causes electrical fires.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
But it was just so, and it makes me and my siblings like sick to our stomach. We go by there because that was our home. I mean, that was really our home. That was our main home that we had all through our lives. So,
right.
But I would do anything to have that opportunity to go back and snatch that. I remember the drawer. He had a little junk drawer right there on his workbench and then work desk. It wasn't a bench, but full of stuff.
Wow. Holy cow. So now you're squatching?
Now I'm squatching. I don't get out as much as a lot of people, but I try to go out every now and then. I go out to, like I said, I'll go out to County Road 7. There's a lot of places out there that there's been sightings. I've run into, so I think I told you before we started recording, I work in community mental health. So I meet a lot of people from the county, and they'll come in my office, and I've got like a Bigfoot calendar up on my wall. I've got a little Bigfoot bobblehead on my desk. I got a Bigfoot sign on my door that one of my kiddos gave me. It says John, and it's got a Bigfoot on it. And they'll be like, so John, do do you believe in Bigfoot? And I'm like, what gave it away? Some days I'll even be wearing a Bigfoot shirt when I'm at work, when my bosses are cool with, like around the holidays, especially, like I can wear my Bigfoot stuff. So people will tell me stories. People will tell me like encounters they had or encounters their family members had. So County Road 7 has always been one of those places. I met a guy. Actually, I've known him since I was a little kid. Now he's older than I am, and unfortunately now he's passed away. But he was like, John, I really want to take you out to where we saw this. So I was like, yeah. So it's County Road 7 comes down to in Coshocton County. There is a road that goes from and it's right by Wills Creek, and it goes from State Route 83 over to State Route 541. This is the road where Mark DeWorth, that runs the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, he has a video of when it was stripped out. He's got a video of a creature like literally tree peeking on this road. So this is the same road this gentleman took me out on to this cornfield. This family owns it. They own it. It's a huge, it's not just a cornfield. It's like miles of cornfields. This family that's well established in the county owns it. And this gentleman told me, he's like, I asked them about it. They will not talk to me about anything. They will literally shut the door on my face if I ask them about this particular subject. So we go out there. And I guess I'll get to that. He takes me out to the spot and he points out to me and he says, this reddish brown creature. He said auburn colored. He said this thing ran across this field right here. It was right after they took the corn down. He said, I have never seen anything move that fast in my life. Now, what he said next stuck with me, and I'm almost repeating it verbatim. He said, John, I was in Vietnam. I was literally laying in the swamp with snakes crawling over me while Charlie was trying to kill me. And I have never been as scared as I was when I saw that thing. Really? He said, it crossed that field. It was inhuman. Like it was just moving so fast. The guy that was with him had, he said they had AK-47s with them because they were out shooting that day. They were out, just shooting some stuff. And he said, I wouldn't even have tried to shot it with that weapon. He said it wouldn't have, there's no way it would have done anything to it.
Holy cow. So
that's all in that kind of, like I said, County Road 7 kind of comes into that perpendicular, like a T-bone almost, where County Road 7 comes down in that. And then there's a swamp. As soon as you go up County Road 7, there's a farmhouse right there on the corner. You go up County Road 7, there's a swamp off to your right. And he would tell me he would sit there in his truck at night and listen to, you could hear it. He said you could hear them down there. They would be grunting. And I've always, there's a hill that runs and I've always been, for some reason, I've always been attracted to this hill that I've always tried to get up. And every time I try to get up that hill, something comes along and, stops me. It's either weather. The one time there was a bunch of guys riding, 4-wheelers out there. Now, this is really going to sound conspiracy theorist, and they were probably just trying to keep me away from their dope or something. But they're riding 4-wheelers in our county, out in the county, with black helmets on, with black visors. And it's like, okay, you guys are up to, nobody does that. You got, right. Red don't ride around on 4-wheelers with black helmets, with black visors. Right. But they just kept running up and down the road by my van. And I'm like, I don't want to, come down this hill and have my tires cut or bunch of cranked out meth heads, get flat.
Right. Right. Well, John, I really do appreciate you coming back on Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. And those were some great encounters, dude. Great encounters. And that whole thing with the Mothman and the keys, I I honestly think that is what caused all that disturbance in that house, man. You bring something from such a powerful event into your home, of course you're going to have some kind of paranormal activity going on.
Oh, without a doubt, I like I said, to have that, I think about all these weird things that have happened over the years, and that almost brought it full circle. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like in some way, did that change, everything? Because I didn't even, we didn't talk about Grandma Turley and when she told me the Mothman story, and my grandfather had a run in with the Mothman. So
We can keep going.
okay. So this is my grandma. This is Grandma Turley. So the grandmother I was talking about before is my mom's mom. Okay, so this is my dad's mom. And she lives in Hartford. Grandmother lives in New Haven. New Haven is literally 3 miles away from Hartford. You just drive up the hill and you're in New Haven. So, Grandma's house was tiny. My dad lived there with her. And so in the summertime, I would go down there and stay with my dad and grandma, usually for about a month. My uncle lived in a trailer, in grandma's backyard. So it was about 50 feet from grandma's back porch to my uncle's porch. And, grandma was one of those, salt of the earth Christian ladies, would do anything, just the nicest woman in the world. And she knew Jesus. They were went to high school together. It was nothing but good stuff. There was never any, you never got condemnation or, you should wear this or you should have to, blah, blah. There was none of that. It was just cool, good stuff. Grandma would, she spent all day in the kitchen. She would, she'd make, she called them light rolls, and she would make, big breakfast for us in the morning. And then we'd eat huge lunch and a huge dinner. No wonder I'm chubby. But grandma would always, when we'd go to bed, she'd tell us a little, bedtime story, and she'd tell us, about Noah's Ark or Daniel in the lion's den or Jonah getting swallowed by a, whale or whatever. So one night and we would play in the yard, like me and my cousin and some of the neighborhood kids, we would play till dark, and, then we'd play flashlight tag. I mean, it was nonstop. So the one night we're sitting on my uncle's porch, and grandma, I don't know what got us. I think I was about 12 or 13. I don't know what got on the subject. We might have been talking about something spooky, and I'm sure if that was the case, I brought it up. So I was probably trying to
the usual suspect.
Yeah, I was probably trying to spook my cousin. He's like 3 years younger than me, and he was like my little brother, the little brother I never had. So one of my favorite hobbies was torturing him. So, like I said, I don't know how we got on the subject. So grandma starts telling us this story. This is like I said, this is probably 82, 83. Grandma starts telling us the story of Mothman. And I'm just like, what? So she's telling us the story, about the kids that are down at the TNT area. And, the Mothman chased them all the way. There were scratch marks on the car. And I'm just like, what? And this lady has never told me anything scary in my life. So I am petrified. So and then she tells us, so there is on the back road behind Hartford, it runs down towards the TNT area. There is a coal mine back there where my grandfather worked in the coal mine. I just happen to have, and I'm going to do a plug for my friend Linda Sigmund, in her book, In the Pale Moonlight. She has some sketches where her Mothman sighting is. Like a half a mile from, she's got the coal mine where my grandfather worked sketched in this book.
Oh, that is awesome.
So grandma tells me that my grandfather told her they came out of the coal mine one time, and during all the Mothman craze, and this thing was sitting on top of his car. And when they came out of the mine, it just took up and flew off straight into the sky.
What?
So I got to tell this part, and then I'll talk more, and then I'll share what Linda told me, which just completely, again, blows my mind. So grandma was telling us this story. Like I said, it's about 50 feet from my uncle's porch to my grandma's back porch. She left the little porch light on. That's the only light. And it's blacker than the back door of a furnace. I mean, it is so dark because we've been sitting under the porch light as it's gotten darker and darker. And grandma's telling this story, and I'm just freaked out. Like, there's this thing flying around out here. Like, it's like, and she's like, grandma's like, yeah, as far as I know, nobody's ever, caught it or killed it or anything like that. And I'm just like, what? So like going across that yard that night, I remember 50 feet felt like 1,000 yards. I mean, I was just, I don't know if I've ever been that scared. Just because you couldn't see anything. I just remember how black it was. So crazy. And I'm just like, scarred for life. Thank you, Grandma. I love you so much. So we're at the West Virginia Panhandle Conference last year. Brian and Terry Seach put this on. It's up above Weirton, so like literally in the northern panhandle of West Virginia. And Linda Sigmund is there, and Linda has had her book is marvelous. I just got to finish all of it, and that's how I found the map. But I talked to her about it. She was at that conference. She was a speaker. So I go up, and we've met a few times, but I've never told her that story that I just told you about Grandma. And because I wanted to she grew up in Pomeroy, and I remember all the stuff, and she's talking about these places that aren't there anymore. And I remember all these places as a kid. And so I told her that story, and she looked at me and she goes, John, my sighting was less than half a mile from where your grandfather worked at that coal mine. And like I said, it's in that book. She's got like hand-drawn little maps, and there's the coal mine there. And it's just like,
wow. And you hadn't read that yet.
No. And then so it must have been 6th grade, because I remember the next year, I was in 7th grade, because my teacher, the first book report, we had to do a book report like the first 6 weeks. She said, you can go back to the books that I have back on the back shelf. There's some books back there. If you want to read one of those, you can get one of those and do a book report on it. So I go back there, and she's got this book, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was like Monsters and Mysteries, in America. And I open it up, and there's a story about the Mothman, and it's that story. It's the one about the kids. Almost word for word what Grandma's telling me. And I'm just like, I'm freaking out, because I'm just like, what's happening here? Like, this is, I always thought, Grandma was kind of spinning me a yarn there. Obviously, I know a lot more about it now, but
right.
At the time, I didn't know anything about it. And then I'm reading in this book in my 7th grade English class in Coshocton, Ohio. My teacher was Mrs. Dober. I'm just sitting there reading it. I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, this is
Wow. Just confirming everything that your grandma told you.
everything that grandma said.
Holy cow. Wow.
So, I mean, like I said, all that stuff, from where it started. And then, like I said, families in Mason, West Virginia, Mason County, and
Yeah. Wow.
all these weird things that have happened. And they just kept, I just keep going around, and there's another, these little connecting dots, and that leads, that goes down another rabbit hole of, why does this happen to certain people and other people never have any kind of experiences, or either that, or they play them off, or they just totally refuse to accept that anything like that's real. And I'm just like, well, and not just one thing, it's, different things. Like, okay, you had a Bigfoot encounter, and paranormal stuff has happened, and your family had these run-ins with these other cryptids, and your grandmother's house was haunted, and your house was haunted, and
Yeah. Yeah.
why did it
Do
happen?
you know what your blood type is?
O positive.
Okay. You didn't get the negative. Sorry.
No.
Yeah. I just wondered because you hear about the RH negative connection with a lot of the paranormal. So
Yeah. I don't fall into that category, but
right. Have you ever had any UFO encounters?
nothing, nothing up close or anything like that. I've seen some odd things in the sky, and um that's about the extent of it. Nothing. I don't even think, as far as what would be that would close encounter of the first kind. You just see stuff up in the sky, lights that go really fast and disappear, and
Yeah.
nothing that stands out though.
Except for that one time you woke up walking funny. I'll cut that. That was
That
just
might have been the
me.
PBR. You never know.
Well, I might be over that direction here in just a few months. Thinking about going over to Salt Fork. So, maybe you can take me out to County Road 7.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll talk about that when the time comes, but we've been doing this about an hour. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Well, you can find Crow Town Squatchers on our Facebook page, Crow Town Squatchers Store. You can find me and John Turley on Facebook as well. And I encourage everybody, if you see anything on our pages, any of our pictures, like, hey, John, I want, let me see that. I would like to get that. All you got to do is shoot me a DM. I'll answer it every time. If it's about something like that, I always want to find, if people want to find something, because some of the things that's on our table, or maybe in we have consignment stores in Millersburg and Cambridge. Sometimes when I have stuff in that stores, or either of the stores, or on our table, it may not be on our web, or on our crowtownsquatchers.com website. So the website's mostly right now, it's we're going to be working on that soon. Beth's going to be kind of jumping into that, and putting some more stuff on there. But crowtownsquatchers.com, t-shirts and hoodies. If you need anything else, just shoot me a DM, or join the Crow Town Squatchers store page, and you can always get a hold of me that way.
Do you have anything coming up as far as events?
The first event that we are going to be doing is the Frogman Festival. That's the first weekend in March. That's the official kicking off of the cryptid season. That's a great time, man. That's a great fun festival. They're not doing it. We're just doing one day this year. Last year we tried 2 days. Kind of got mixed reviews, it was as they do, but Jeff Craig is the one that runs it. And he's like, what do you got? He asked the vendors, he asked the people, what do you think? And you gotta love him for that. Cause he was like, the people have spoken. We are going to, move it back to one day while John dies.
I had a tickle in my throat, man. I couldn't stop coughing.
So come down to Loveland, Ohio. It's the first weekend in March, and that will be the Frogman Festival. And then after that, the next major event will be the Ohio Bigfoot Conference at Salt Fork. That will be the first week in May 2nd this year, I believe is the date. And of course, that's always one of the best times. A lot of our good buddies come out. We get to see everybody. Is just a lot of fun. We have a blast at OBC. So, it's just a great time. Plus, it's only 40 minutes from our house. So,
well, John, it's been awesome having you back on Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. And the next time that you run into Bigfoot or hear him screaming, make sure you give me a holler.
I definitely will.
All right.
You'll be the first person that I tell.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And, who knows? Maybe we'll run into each other at a conference, or like I said, I think I'm going to be coming over to Salt Fork in April or May. So maybe we can hook up and you can take me out to County Road 7.
Absolutely.
All right.
If you're going to be at Salt Fork, we'll go over to the primitive campground or take a hike on Morgan's Trail, man. That's always a good hot spot for Bigfoot stuff. Found 2 prints out there. So
heck yeah.
Morgan's Trail is always a good place to go.
Yeah. You have to show me around.
Absolutely.
All right. And if you've had a paranormal encounter, maybe you heard Bigfoot screaming at you while you're drinking PBR out in the middle of a field, you can contact me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com because I want to hear your story. Until next time, I'll talk to you later. Gotta go. And that's it for tonight. Make sure you're checking out the description on this episode for any links associated with the guest. And if you've had a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Good night, everyone.
Shadow in the pines lurking in the dusky air. Bigfoot stomps through the woods like he don't care. Lights in the sky flash green then blue. Aliens descending with a secret or two. Whispers in the breeze, cold fingers down your spine.